Good morning, everybody. Pat Flynn here, and whoa, I am way low on the screen here. I look like Wilson from Home Improvement. Yeah, maybe I should always podcast like this. You never see my mouth. What does he really look like? Let me fix that. If you're just listening, then you have no idea what I'm talking about. There we go. Hey guys, how are you? Pat Flynn here. Good to be with you this week to answer whatever questions you want to throw my way. A few other things I want to talk about, including minimalist ab training today. As you can tell, I'm in a very purpley mood. I've got a purple shirt on. I've got a purple background. I've got a purple state of mind, my friends. How are all you doing? Let me know what you're drinking in the comments. Let me know what you want to discuss, what questions you want to throw my way, and we'll jam on it. As you notice, Dan John is absent this week. So you just got me. You got to stare at this guy the entire time. You got to stare at Purple Pat, as Anthony says. That's right. We'll have fun, though. We can have fun without Dan. We'll miss him. He's in Europe. He's across the pond doing some workshops. So it's just me today. A few announcements before we begin. And again, I see lots of good stuff in the comments already. So just keep those questions coming, and we'll jam here for a bit. If you're on my email list, stay tuned. We've got a big semi-annual sale coming up for Strong On. So if you want to become a Strong On member, it will be an opportune time to do so, including upgrade your membership. So if you like those fresh-baked daily minimalist kettlebell workouts designed by me that you can just grab and get awesome results with, no thinking required, you're going to want to pay attention to that. That's going to be exclusive for my email subscribers, which you can get on my email list at 101kettlebellworkouts.com. So yeah, you should do that because you get 101 free kettlebell workouts just for joining. And my emails are pretty fun. I think it's a good time to be on my email list. And I hear that from other people as well. And you get awesome deals and stuff like that too. It's not too annoying. 101kettlebellworkouts.com. What else? That's about it. Nothing too new in my neck of the woods. My training's been going good. I'd love to hear about how all of your training is going. Been doing a lot of presses lately, trying to beef up. Been doing a lot of ab work, as we're going to talk about today. I've got a new ab challenge coming out, Warrior Core. So you can have, those Spartan abs that are actually useful and functional and strong and that look good. Here's a recent post-workout selfie. As you can see next to a seductive urinal. You have to do it. You just have to do it sometimes. So I like abs that can actually do work, that are strong. And I think one of the mistakes that people make when it comes to ab training is they don't train their abs like everything else. And stick around. I'm going to explain what I mean by that here in a minute. But let's turn some attention to all of you guys and start having some fun here. So let's start taking some questions. This will be a shorter one today, guys. So just drop your stuff in here quick. I've got a jet a little bit earlier than usual, but we'll make the best use of our time that we can. Let me know what you're drinking. Do you have coffee? Do you have old granddad? It's never too early for a little old granddad. All right. Ian says, Pat, a few weeks ago, you said you would be offering an update on Swing Other Thing. Any news on that? Okay. Yeah, great question. And the answer is I am definitely planning that. The update will be on my Kettlebell Quickies channel. So if you're not on Kettlebell Quickies, you want to head there and hit that subscribe button and get yourself some quickies. Swing Other Thing, guys. Let me give it to you real quick because I think this is such a good protocol. It's such an awesome minimalist protocol. If you're just looking for a smart way to train that doesn't have a lot of upfront investment in time, in terms of time or equipment, this is a really cool approach. And I'm going to be, like I said, I'm going to be offering an updated plan of Swing Other Thing on Kettlebell Quickies soon. But the idea is this: it's a lot of every minute on the minute training, so EMOM training. And if you are not familiar with that, EMOM training is you do a set of something at the top of every minute for some number of minutes. This is a really good way to just keep your workouts efficient by staying on the clock. And if you're smart about how you select the program and the exercises, you can just train in this manner for strength, for muscle, for conditioning. You can do it all. It's really versatile with an intelligent approach. And I think one intelligent approach is Swing Other Things. So the idea here is, you just do swing, swing, other thing on the clock. So minute 1, you'll do a set of swings. Minute 2, you'll do a set of swings. And in minute 3, you'll do some other thing. And what that other thing is kind of depends on what you want the focus of the workout to be. So for example, minute 1, you could do a set of 10 swings. Minute 2, you could do a set of 10 swings. And then minute 3, you could do a set of, I don't know, 8 heavy double presses. And that's great. And the reason this works really well is because if you just try to do 8 heavy double presses on every minute, you would quickly burn out. You're just not going to be able to stay on the clock with that. But if you put sets of swings in between, that not only is going to just help you do lots of swings and burn lots of calories and have a nice conditioning effect, but it will help you to recover to perform another intense bout of some other thing. So it could be double presses, it could be front squats, you could do higher reps, you could do lower reps, you could even do like a small little complex in there. So it's a really, I think, powerful way to not just condition yourself generally, but to really get in some high quality strength and muscle building while using every minute on the minute training. So one of the limitations of EMOM training is that it's kind of hard to stay on the clock with certain things. So what's the solution? Well, just kind of spread the workout more. You don't have to do the same thing every single minute. And if you want to do some harder efforts in the context of EMOM training, like heavier, higher rep efforts, just pad those efforts with swings in between. Keep the metabolism cranked. Swings are always good, but it's not going to like completely drain you in such a way that you won't be able to do heavy presses or pull-ups. Pull-ups are, by the way, one of my favorite ways to work this is with pull-ups. So let me just give it to you real quick because it's all about giving you the good stuff here. So minute 1, 10 swings. Minute 2, 10 swings. Minute 3, some number of pull-ups, 5 pull-ups. You do that for, I don't know, you don't even have to do it that long, anywhere between 15 to 30 minutes. You're going to have an amazing workout. You're going to build lots of good pull-up strength. You're going to have accumulated an enormous number of swings, and you will have sweat on the brow. So there you go. That's swing, other thing. It is coming. I have to film something for Kettlebell Quickies this week. I don't know if this will be the one in the production queue, but you've given me an incentive maybe to bump it up there, my friend. So stay tuned for that. Head over to Kettlebell Quickies. Subscribe if you're not already, because that is where that will be appearing at some point in the future. Thank you for your good question. Let's move on to the next one. Okay, here we go. Scrolling back up. Yannick says, good morning, making a fresh cup of coffee to join the conversation for a while. Always a pleasure on Tuesday amidst the hustle and bustle of the work week. Well, I appreciate you guys tuning in. We're here every Tuesday, and by we, I mean usually me and Dan John. He's off today. We gave him the week off, aren't we kind? Every Tuesday, 9 a.m. Central Time. Okay. Pierre has a question on overspeed eccentric swings. When would you do or would you not do the eccentric or the overspeed swings? So if you're not familiar with the overspeed swing, or what's sometimes called the power bomb swing, I'll explain what it is, and I'll explain when I think it's useful. The idea is somebody's swinging a kettlebell, and there's kind of 2 ways you can do this. One is with a partner. Another way to do it is banded. But say you have a partner, a friend, or a loose associate. You don't have to be that tight, right? Just grab somebody at work and be like, follow me. I want you to do something. They're going to stand off to the side. This is really important. They should never be standing right in front of you when you're swinging. They're going to stand off to the side. And when the kettlebell reaches the top of the upward portion of the swing, they will take their hand or 2 hands and actively spike or power bomb the swing back down. Now, you have to be prudent in how this is done. They shouldn't be trying to kill you. They're just trying to add a little bit more force to the swing to overspeed the eccentric or downward portion. Okay, so what is this useful for? Well, it's useful for several things. One, it can be a great way to sort of force people to learn to catch the weight with their hips and to be maximally explosive with the swing. So when it comes to the hard style kettlebell swing, we don't want to be efficient with it, right? We're not just trying to conserve as much energy so we can get as many reps in as possible. With the hard style swing, what we're trying to do is produce as much force, as much power with every rep as possible. That means we're not only snapping our hips forward with as much aggression as possible with every rep, but we're actively throwing that kettlebell back down into our hips, playing chicken with our zipper, loading for the next rep with as much aggression as possible. And to sometimes just get people to understand what the feeling of that should be like because most people just naturally aren't very aggressive with the downswing. This is a really good teaching tool. And it's a teaching tool because the idea is once they sort of have that feeling of what it is to kind of have the kettlebell spiked, the idea is they should be able to mimic that themselves without a partner, without a band, by just actively and aggressively, really honestly throwing the kettlebell back down to load for that next rep, to get that spindle reflex. And this will help to make you overall just more explosive. That's the idea. Okay. So I think it is best for a teaching tool. It's not something that I regularly program for several reasons. One, you might not always have somebody around to help you with that, or you might not have a band, because you can achieve a similar effect if you put the band around your legs and the handle of the kettlebell. It's kind of weird to set up, but you can do it, and that will give you a similar effect. But it's a bit cumbersome. So really my preferred use of when I use the power bomb swing is simply as a progression or teaching tool for people who are learning the two-hand kettlebell swing to understand what we mean by playing chicken with your zipper and to not let gravity do all the work. You want to be as aggressive as you possibly can with the downswing, not just the upswing, with every single rep. So that's where I use it. It can be a useful tool again if you're just programming low rep swings for pure power. This would be another, I think, like we're talking like 5 reps or fewer. This would be another instance where I think programming the power bomb or the overspeed swing can be useful. But generally for me, it's merely a teaching tool, merely a progression. You won't find it regularly prescribed in the workouts that I design. Hope that helps, Pierre. Anthony says that I'm Purple Pat. Yes, I am. I am Purple Pat today. That I am. All right. Keep the questions coming, guys. I'm going to storm through as many as I can here. Jason says, Pat, I have a bad case of anterior tilt. You're spilling that bowl of soup, my friend. I do the kettlebell exercises. I'm even experimenting with a standing desk. Any advice? Man, this is hard. It's hard because I just don't have your general history. But the idea here, for people who aren't familiar, is you have your hip bowl, your bowl that is your hips, and what we want is a sort of a neutral hip position. Whereas if you imagine that there's your hips are a bowl of soup, we don't want to spill the soup really in either direction, right? And what you'll see is oftentimes when people are squatting or swinging, when they hit a certain point in the range of motion, we see the hips begin to tilt one way or another, and we start to kind of lose that good quality alignment. Now, let me say a few general things about proper technique and proper alignment. So when it comes to squatting, swings, we generally recommend that you have neutral hips, right? We're trying to avoid the soup spilling, crown to coccyx alignment, all that good stuff. We have, maximal joint centration. So presumably we can transmit force most efficiently. And, these will be positions where we're not just the strongest, but also the safest. That's a general idea behind the biomechanics of why we recommend the things we do when it comes to swings and squats and lots of other exercises, right? But let us also keep in mind that one thing that is often overlooked when it comes to safety is consistency of technique. You get really strong at the positions you train most consistently. So it's not just that having, imperfect technique will cause you to get hurt. As common, or perhaps even more commonly, when people get hurt is when they deviate under significant load from the positions or patterns they have been consistently training in. So maybe you do have this tilt, or maybe you have some weird kind of knee position or something like that in the squats, but you've been training that position for a long time under a significant amount of load that you're actually pretty strong in it. But then what happens is, the load increases and you start doing a number of sets or reps where that technique is breaking down. And now you've deviated into a position or pattern that you are not ready to handle. And that's when you get hurt, or that's when a lot of people get hurt. So when it comes to proper technique, it's not just, I think this is something that people overlook. It's not just, okay, do I have, ideal optimal joint centration and this or that? It's also, am I being consistent in the patterns and positions that I train across my actual training, especially when I'm hitting those harder, heavier sets and reps and stuff like that. So it's consistency. Preferably we want consistency and good technique. But both of these matter. And this is why you will see a lot of people who are very strong and they're not hurt and they kind of have technique that we would look at and say, okay, I'm not really sure about that, but they're consistent with their technique. They're consistent with their technique. And I believe that the human body can adapt to be strong in pretty much any position, but you have to train those positions to make them strong. And it's when we deviate into positions we're not used to, being in under significant amounts of stress or load that we go to snap city. So yeah, that would be my kind of general theory, I guess, of how to think about some of these things. As to how to address it, I don't know, man. You need to have somebody get a look at you and give you an assessment, because just because one thing is out of alignment, that might not be the problem. The imbalances could be coming from anywhere. But if you want, throw a video up in the Strong On group, and we'll have a look at you and see if we can see what's going on. These are not really things that it's not helpful to just kind of speculate about what it might be from the podcast armchair. But we do have the Strong On group if you want to throw a video in there with lots of great coaches who would probably be willing to offer a bit of feedback. So yeah, do that. All right, let's keep going. All right, Coach Luke, my man Luke, a boy Luke's in town. Why are bathroom mirrors perfect for posing? And does your ab challenge include Taekwondo kicks to the midsection? Great. So in case you guys missed my bathroom ab selfie, look at Dad. Dad still got it. Dad still got the six-pack. And look at that seductive urinal. I don't know, man. There's something about lighting in bathrooms that just is like, you can't miss the opportunity no matter how ugly the surrounding scenery is, especially after you got a huge pump going on. So you take the opportunities wherever you can get them. Ab challenge. Yeah, so I've got this new challenge coming up for Strong On members. If you're a Strong On member, this is included. If not, stay tuned. There's a big sale coming up later today, so you can get it. Calling it Warrior Core, baby. And what we're going to do is we're going to focus on just those core minimalist ab exercises, high impact, big bang for buck ab exercises that actually are useful for building not just strong, but aesthetically pleasing abs. Thank you, Luke, for setting me up for this awesome sales pitch. I really appreciate it, brother. But we'll give you guys some good information in general, because I wanted to talk about this anyways, about, what is effective ab training. The biggest mistake, and people want abs, right? It's just what it is. For whatever reason, who doesn't want abs? I've always liked pursuing abs. Everybody likes them. Everybody wants them. And of course, there's always the genetic and nutritional component, but a lot of what will determine whether or not you have abs is how you train them, right? It's not just enough to have low body fat. You can have super low body fat and not have abs because you didn't train them right. They're not well developed. So you have to develop your abs. And the question is, if you really want them to show, how should you train your abs? And the simple answer is you should train your abs like you train everything else, right? With sufficient intensity, within a certain amount of volume, within a certain rep range that will facilitate actual muscle growth. So the mistake people make when it comes to training abs is they'll do their big heavy presses, sets of 8, close to failure, 10 to 20 sets throughout the week, getting an adequate volume. And, they start to beef up and they're beefy boys and all that good stuff. But then they'll go to train abs, and abs will be like an afterthought. Maybe they'll, train with whatever fumes they have left at the end of their training session. And they'll do some really sissy exercises, like a bunch of crunches or sit-ups. And it's just almost a complete waste of time. So if you want serious abs, right, abs that pop and are strong, then you need to train abs like everything else, meaning they shouldn't just be an afterthought, and you should pick exercises that are going to do serious damage to your abs, right, that are seriously challenging. So you should train them earlier on in sessions, right, when you're more focused and have more energy, just like you would train any other major movement pattern or muscle group. And you should pick exercises where you can be close to failure, without having to do a million reps, really 15 reps or fewer. If you can do more than 15 reps of an ab exercise, it's just not difficult enough. We need to find a more challenging variation or add more load. So some obvious, I think, picks for worthwhile ab exercises would be as follows. Write these down, friends. I want you to take some notes here because I'm not going to write it down. Hanging leg raises. All right. If you do hanging leg raises right, you should be able to hit failure pretty quickly with these. If you can't do a hanging leg raise because it is darn hard, you can do knee raises, and you can extend your legs to whatever degree you need to make them sufficiently challenging. Okay. Somewhere between 6 to 12 reps. You want to find that. Okay. Now with a good hanging leg raise, we want to make sure that biceps are next to or slightly behind the ear, and we are really getting the feet, or really shins to the bar. All right, because we have to have that full range of motion if we really want to hit the abs in this. If we're only going to like 90 degrees, there's going to be a lot of hip flexor. You have to get that full range of motion for the hang leg raise. So that's one exercise I think is darn worthwhile. The reverse crunch or dragon flag variation is another. You've seen the Bruce Lee dragon flag thing. You don't have to do the full dragon flag, but where you anchor against a bench or even kettlebells, and you perform that reverse crunch dragon flag type of movement, even with your knees bent. High impact. You're going to be able to hit failure with that pretty quickly. Okay. Hollow holds, especially weighted hollow holds, these would be done for time. But if you do a hollow hold correctly, especially one with a little bit of weight in your hands and or ankles, you should be able to hit failure, I don't know, between 20 to 40 seconds. Really powerful ab exercise. And then I'll give you one more as a bonus here. You know I love it. You know it was coming. The ab wheel. The ab wheel is it only does ab wheel really only does one thing well. Ab wheel does ab wheel, but it's like $10 and it is totally worth getting one of these things because if you're doing ab wheel right, you're maintaining that hollow position, you're controlling the tempo of your actual wheeling out and wheeling in. You should be able to hit failure with this pretty quickly. If not, then you can start to work towards the big stroke of doing it on your feet. And that you're a tough guy if you can do that. You're a real tough guy if you can do a full standing ab wheel. So those would be 4 ab exercises where if you train them, listen to me very carefully, just 2 to 3 times per week, depending on how advanced your abs already are, 3 to 4 sets, and making sure that you were close to failure with every set. Just pick two of those exercises for each session, 2 exercises each session, 2 to 3 times per week, 3 to 4 sets, close to failure with each set for somewhere between 6 to 12 reps. Your abs are going to grow and they're going to become very strong and very hard. I just gave you the formula, friends. At least like give me a like and a share. And of course, if you want a more detailed program, stay tuned for my Warrior Core Challenge coming up next week for all members of Strong On. Good question, Luke. I appreciate you, brother. No Taekwondo kicks. That was, back in the old, we used to do, in my Taekwondo days in college, we used to do what we called super happy fun drills, right? So we'd sit there in the guard position and we would just take kicks from our sparring partner, right? All around the body, but especially in the midsection and abs. The goal was not to be the dude who quit first, right? So you just sit there, you take a blow, you give a blow, you take a blow, you give a blow, man. Good times. Makes you tough. Kids these days would benefit from that old school nonsense. No super happy fun drills in this. Thought about it though. Okay, Christopher says, Pat, do you add sprint training into your training? If so, how do you plan sprints? How should a beginner start? Yeah, I love sprint training, man, especially as the weather gets nice. I go out to the old neighborhood. I've got a hill, perfect hill for sprints, and I use that somewhat frequently. So where does sprinting fit into my training? Well, it would fit as a form of conditioning. So it's something that could fit in where I might otherwise perform kettlebell complexes or circuits or something like that. So I'll almost never do more than 2 sprint sessions per week. But when the weather is nice, I like to, try to get at least 1 sprint session in per week. And there's a couple ways that I will incorporate this. First off, I think hill sprints are great. So if you can opt for hill sprints, I would highly recommend it. Tends to be a little bit easier on the joints. Obviously has an extra element of intensity since you're sprinting up a hill. So it can be something very simple of 6 rounds. 6 rounds is perfect. You sprint up the hill, you walk back down to recover. You sprint up the hill, you walk back down to recover. It's an all-out sprint. Just go until you are no longer sprinting. And you really have to push it. You have to pump the arms as hard as you can, and you have to be as explosive as possible, right? So don't jog your sprints. You need to sprint your sprints. Somewhere between, I usually do around 6 or 7 rounds. That's it, right? And then I go for a long walk. You do not have to do a whole lot of sprints to experience the benefits of sprinting. If you're a beginner, I think that's great. You could start with even fewer rounds of hill sprints. Take a good warm-up. Make sure your body's prepared. Ease into it. Sprints can be kind of brutal if you haven't done them in a very long time. So just be prudent. The other way I like to program sprints is in the context of interval running. Really one of my favorite things to do when the weather is nice here in Wisconsin, which is for about 5 minutes every year. So you take advantage of it when you can. You go outside. This could be done for distance. It could be done for time, or it can just be done for landmarks. So in my neighborhood, I just kind of have a nice little setup. of this nice little loop that connects to the hill I was talking about. So what I will do is I will sprint up the hill. I'll walk down, walk around the loop for, I don't know, a few minutes. It's probably like two-ish minutes. Then I'll jog the remainder of the loop, which might be another 1 to 2 minutes. I'll sprint up the hill. So it's sprint, walk, jog, sprint, walk, jog, sprint, walk, jog. You don't have to be too structured about this. I think it's better if you're a little bit more spontaneous, and then just do it for time. You can do 10 minutes starting out. If you're a complete beginner, you don't need to do it that long. Upwards of 20 minutes, maybe 30 minutes. I wouldn't necessarily do something like that for more than 30 minutes. Highly effective and efficient way to boost your overall work capacity and general conditioning. So those are 2 ideas for you. And again, something like 1 to 2 times per week of just sprints or interval running. It's going to cover a lot of your conditioning needs. It's going to make it feel good, give you an opportunity to get outside in the sun, soak up vitamin D from Pat Flynn's favorite planet. Okay, awesome. All right, Yannick says, on the issue of ab training, I absolutely detest it. What's the minimum recommended dose, in your opinion, for someone who gets bored out of his mind doing dedicated ab work? So this question came in after I talked about it, but I will reiterate what I just said because I think I gave it. 2 days per week. Here's the minimum effective dose of ab training. So 2 days per week, 2 exercises, 3 to 4 sets, close to failure for somewhere between 6 to 12 reps. You have to pick exercises that will allow you to actually get to that point of intensity where you are failing or right next to failure for somewhere between 6 to 12 reps. So say you want to do, let's pick 2 exercises. Let's go hanging leg raise and let's go ab wheel. Awesome pairing. So 2 days per week, and I would recommend non-consecutive days. Do 3 sets starting out. You can go to 4 sets once you become a little bit more advanced. Let's say 10 reps just to keep things basic in terms of numbers. But you have to make sure that if you do 10 reps, that final rep is really kind of like your point of failure or technical failure. So yeah, that's what I would recommend for your minimum effective dose. As always, the stronger you are, the more experienced you are. And depending on how much you really want to carve out your abs and grow your abs, you at some point will need to add more volume. But for most people, most of the time, that's just a difference between 2 to 3 days per week. Starting out 2 days per week is going to be awesome for a lot of people. And then, the usual qualifications that if you really want your abs to show, not just grow, you got to not eat like a pig and get your body fat down and all that. But it's a both and, right? Sometimes people are like, abs are in the kitchen. No, they're not. Body fat's largely in the kitchen, but abs are in the gym, dude. You grow your abs in the gym. There's no doubt. I mean, there's tons of people who have low body fat, but like zero ab strength or definition because they don't know how to train their abs. So it's an obvious both and. Got to get your nutrition in check to get the body fat down and just have smart training overall. But then you also have to make sure that you're training abs in an intelligent and intense way. Good question. Good question. Lots of good questions, guys. I was going to wrap this up at 30 minutes, but I'm having a lot of fun. So I'm going to break my rule because I like you guys. I like you. Okay, Walt says, regarding fixing the fitness industry, is there some happy medium between the Wild West, which we're living in now, and some dystopian government-controlled nightmare? Are you yourself a certified trainer from any of the governing bodies? Yeah, man. So I acquired many certifications back in my youth, back in the Wild West days. And I, to be honest, a lot of them were not very good. But I had to get them, because when I was at least starting out and I was personal training and teaching at lots of different places, including like the YMCA, they required that you had certification. So it wasn't completely the Wild West for me. It was on the internet because even today, anybody can post anything they want on the internet. I don't know. So, man, what do I feel about credentials? I mean, I'm credentialed, right? So I don't want to totally knock credentials. I have a lot of credentials, not just in fitness, but anywheres. But my thing has always been like, hey, man, if you have a good argument, if you know what you're talking about, then I don't really care about your credentials. If you don't have a good argument, and if you don't know what you're talking about, then I don't really care about your credentials, right? So credentials are they are a filter. If somebody has put in the work to become certified and to educate themselves, I think if you look for people in that direction, you're less likely to encounter a whole bunch of nonsense, but it's no guarantee that you won't encounter nonsense. I mean, there's tons of people out there, right? Including people with PhDs who are just a fire hose of bullshit, right? There's also probably a lot more people without any credentials that are the same thing. So it's no guarantee. And I have mixed feelings. This is a good question. I have mixed feelings about this. So the lower barriers to entry for trainers it's a benefit because even for people like me as a poor broke college kid, I was still able to afford at least enough of the certifications to get my foot in the door that I could start really a profession or a career without a monetary barrier to entry. So it really does provide good opportunities for people. Smart, honest people can make or at least have the opportunity to do a lot of good in the world for other people and make a living for themselves without going into enormous amounts of debt or being sort of disqualified from massive amounts of regulation, right? And I guess this is sort of a general policy question, which I don't really want to entertain too long, of, the pros and cons of regulation in general. The other downside to having lower barriers to entry is pretty much anybody can get in, right? So I don't have a good answer to that. I think there is a happy medium. I think a complete Wild West is not a great idea. But I think also a dystopian government-controlled nightmare is a very bad idea too. So it's a good question. It's one that I think if you're honest and you think seriously about, you're going to realize it's a hard question to answer. I always like to, do what I can to empower people, of course, to just with tools to help them find reputable people. I obviously like to think that I'm reputable, but I think, I want other people to be surrounded by reputable people. And when you look at good coaches, there's a few things to keep in mind. One, are they responsive to evidence and willing to change their mind in light of new evidence, right? If somebody just has all the marks of being just like a possessed ideologue, then maybe be a little bit cautious about what they're saying, right? But are they consistent and principled from a good theoretical foundation as well, right? So I also it's one thing to evolve in light of new evidence. It's another thing to be changing your mind every 5 minutes as there is a new fad on the scene. If you see that, right? So this is kind of that middle ground, right? Okay, we don't want somebody who never evolves or grows, especially when new evidence demands it. But we also don't want somebody who just is saying radically different things every 5 minutes just because they're trying to keep up with whatever is popular. So those are kind of extremes to be avoided. Does this person practice what they preach, or at least are they able to consistently generate, reliable results in people that follow their system? Do they have a system, right? How are they regarded among other experts and peers in the industry? There's just, a sort of variety of different things that I would want people to consider when determining, okay, who am I going to consume information from? And I think those are some criteria that, again, they're never perfect, but they can at least be helpful. So I think it's both, and I think it is good to have some checks for people coming into the industry. I think it's also good to provide opportunity, because I think of people like me, starting out, I was a super broke, college kid just trying to pay my bills. I really wanted to do the fitness thing. I took my education seriously. I wanted to do right by people always. I wanted to learn as much as I could, and it gave me an opportunity, right? I had real opportunities from, a sort of impoverished standpoint. And that was a great thing. I'm very grateful for that. So I wouldn't want that to be denied of other people, right? I wouldn't want that to be denied of our people. And let's be real, a lot of times when regulations go into practice, it's because there's certain pressures from people that want certain forms of control over an industry. They're not really there to protect consumers. They're there to protect the giants in the industry, right? So if we're being honest about a lot of regulatory pressures, it's not for consumer protection, right? It's for corporate protection. And I don't want that. I don't want to see that. Okay, I've gone on. That's a great question, Walt. I didn't answer it, but I gave you some different seeds of thoughts that you can, I don't know, maybe develop in different directions. It's a good question. All right, Steven says, Pat, with minimalist abs, should oblique work be mixed with direct ab training, or should be on separate days? How do you program obliques? Okay, so I don't generally program obliques very directly. Anyways, if we're talking about certain more, I mean, they're getting trained no matter what. But the one thing I would consider, if you want more of the serratus and those kind of, the finger look on the ribs and stuff like that, which is good. I like that look too. I would consider windshield wipers. Windshield wipers will just, man, those were the rotational strength you develop with the hanging windshield wiper. So I've got this on my YouTube channel, right? That is a that is a that is an awesome exercise. I don't do it as much anymore, but if you really feel the need to have um, that aspect in your ab training, that's the exercise I would look towards. And I would just, instead of, you could do standard leg raise and then windshield wipers. I wouldn't change much else. That's a good question. So that's how I would go about that. All right, Yannick says, I do some ab wheel rollouts alongside my full body weight training, but wonder if there's some time efficient extras I should consider. So I do some ab wheel rollouts on full, but wonder some time efficient extras I should consider. Just sort of what I said, man. Like I said, if you want to have abs that really stand out, you sort of have to treat abs like everything else. Like ab training cannot and should not be an afterthought. It doesn't have to be a huge investment either. I think you should approach it like a minimalist, and the sort of outline of the program I gave should not take long. We're talking, 10 to 15 minutes, maybe 20 minutes most per session. So I don't think it's going to set you back too much in terms of time investment. But at the same time, it's kind of a waste of time when people will do a big session and the last 3 to 5 minutes in the gym, they just do a bunch of sit-ups, right? We've all seen that person, right? They're doing their bench and whatever, and then before they leave the gym, they go over to the sweaty mat and they do like 500 sit-ups. That is not the way to train abs. It's time efficient, I guess, but it's not effective. And the minimalist is somebody who doesn't care just about being effective, which is doing things right. They don't care about, being efficient, which is doing things right. They care about being effective, which is doing the right things. So I would emphasize that. Sam says the ab wheel is probably one of the best tools for correcting anterior tilt. It can be, man. It definitely can be. It can't hurt. So to connect back to Jason's question, you could just start trying to do some more of that direct ab work and see if that starts to kind of pull things back into alignment. Again, it's hard to say what the problem is because I've never seen you move. I don't know your history, but generally ab wheel is just kind of a good thing to do anyways, and might see if it helps you out a little bit. All right, guys, this is good. I'm going to keep going here for a bit. Samuel says, Pat, I'm listening to you while I'm in an all-day client meeting in another window. I see there's an ab-focused chat today. Indeed, there is. Indeed, there is an ab-focused chat. Anybody else feel like they sprint through their ab exercises one after another like an endurance sufferfest? Yeah, dude, that's what I'm talking about. That's how you should not be doing it. That's how so many people train abs. Just like, I don't know, like just instinctively, this is what people do. And then they wonder, well, why do my abs not show? Well, one is you just might have a bunch of fat covering them. You got to deal with that. But the other is you're just not training your abs effectively like everything else. Big, hard, heavy sets, guys. Big, hard, heavy sets. That's it. All right. Aerogit says, I want to develop 100 snatches without dropping the kettlebell multiple times. Please suggest some ways to address that. Man, you're in the right spot. I'm going to give it to you right now. Take out that pen and paper again, folks. Pat Flynn. Going to give you the snatch protocol right here. Okay, so you want to get your snatches up 100 reps. Let's say you want to do the snatch test. For men, that's 24. Pat Flynn used to be the king of this, right? I got my 200 reps Secret Service snatch test on YouTube. It still lives there in glory. So I know a thing or two about snatching the kettlebell. All right. Here's what I'd recommend. 3 days per week. You're going to have a heavy day. Okay. You got to get your pure strength and power up. If you want to snatch a 20, sounds so simple, but people overlook this. If you want to be able to snatch a 24 kilogram for many, many reps at a time, then the first thing you should be thinking about is how can I make that 24 kilogram feel light? And the obvious answer there is to snatch a 32 kilogram or a 36 kilogram. Because once you can get comfortable snatching the very heavy weight or the heavier weight, suddenly that weight that seemed heavy before now feels light. So just getting stronger. So you need at least 1 day per week where you are really training heavy snatches or single arm swings. So I would go at least 2 kettlebell sizes heavier than whatever your target bell is for the snatch test right now. So if you want to do the snatch test with 24, then you got to start trying to snatch something like the 32, for example. And maybe you're not quite to the snatch yet. That's fine. Then do one arm swings and high pulls. And you can do ladders. They could be just 2 reps at a time, 3 reps at a time. You could start at 1 rep, ladder up to 5 reps, and back down. And I would just train this for time and work on just accumulating a lot of high quality volume of very heavy snatches, high pulls, or single arm swings. That's also going to help build your grip strength as well. Okay. All right. Another day, you're going to get just 100 reps with your snatch chest weight, however you need to do it. I don't care how often you need to put the kettlebell down. Your goal should be over time to put it down less and less and to use less and less time, but you're going to get the total volume in of 100 reps with your snatch chest weight. I don't care if it takes an hour. Even if your ultimate target is 5 minutes, I don't care if it takes an hour. You're just going to get 100 reps in. Okay. Then the third day is you're going to get 100 reps in 5 minutes or less, which means you use whatever weight you need to get your 100 reps in 5 minutes or less. So let me explain it to you again, the entire program, guys. I'm giving you the gold here. Don't let it go down the toilet. 1 day per week. Just think of this as heavy snatch practice. You're building strength and power, low reps, very heavy weight. Just practice for like 20 minutes, see how many good quality low rep sets you can get. Another day per week, 100 total reps in volume. Doesn't matter how long it takes you, but you need to do it with your target snatch test weight. And then one other day per week, 100 reps in 5 minutes or less. Use however light of a kettlebell you need just to get it done, to just build the wind and the endurance to get the feeling of what it is like to smash through 100 reps in 5 minutes. You put all those puzzle pieces together, you will become a snatch monster in relatively short order. Do not train on consecutive days. So you want to spread these out. Something like a Monday, Wednesday, Saturday training split is honestly kind of ideal for this. And then just get as strong as you can overall. So that's your plan. I've sent a lot of people successfully through kettlebell certs with approaches like that one. And give it time, right? Don't expect this to have you ready in like a week. Give yourself 3 to 6 months of training for that. Anthony says, Pat has a whole video on 100 rep snatch test. Yeah, I got lots of videos of me doing the 100 rep snatch test, and I have the one video of me doing the 200 rep snatch test. The worst time I ever had to do it, we were going down to Camp Lejeune to train some of the special forces, and for whatever reason, the kind of head honch made us get out of the van right away when we were just in it for many, many hours traveling down and just like bang out 100 reps of snatch just to show that we were tough guys, right? So hot, so humid, so sweaty, so awful. The hardest thing was just holding on to the kettlebell when it's just absolutely soaked in sweat. That could be a little bit tricky. Chalk can sometimes help with that, but if you're like super sweaty, it's just gonna turn into absolute goo. So be careful about chalk. Okay. All right, my friends. All right. Sorry, I can't really read that. Mr. Fell, perhaps. What's the crack, Pat? Good crack. Isn't that's like is it Ireland an expression over in Ireland? What does that mean again? Good crack, like good stuff. It means like good stuff, right? If we were to translate it into American. Help me out here, guys. All out of coffee beans, so I'm sipping some instant. Good, man. What would your advice be on using kettlebells with joint hyperflexibility or mobility? Yeah, man. So if you're talking about like elbows, like if your elbows can like hyperextend and stuff like that, you just got to be aware of it. You just got to. My advice is to film yourself, because sometimes you're just not aware of where you're at in terms of extension unless you can see yourself. So if you're concerned about this with push-ups or presses or whatever, just film yourself a couple times, watch, but okay, let's just flex it a little bit, and then just pattern that until you realize that you're actually in a neutral position. So the most helpful thing is just to get your own eyes on yourself from a different perspective. I'm going to find one more question here, guys, and we're going to close out because I gotta. Kevin Rake says, how old is too old for sprints? And Kevin with the funny says, dead. That's when you're too old. I sympathize with that a little bit. I mean, age isn't just a number, right? Age is real. I'm old enough to realize that age is real. Biological age is real, but I don't know, man. I mean, as long as you don't have any major issues or reasons you can't sprint, like some sort of previous injury or just serious knee issues or something like that, and you're prudent in how you approach it, and you're prudent in how you program it and the amount of volume you do, and especially if you're depending on what you're sprinting on, or if you have hills, I think you can be sprinting, well into the ripe, you know, ages of existence. I intend to. If not, no big deal. There's good alternatives. I think Prowler pushes are great lower impact alternatives. So obviously involves a bit more of equipment. But if you can't sprint, man, if you can get a sled or a Prowler, boy, that's going to give you a huge bang for buck. So many of the benefits, the explosive and power conditioning benefits of sprinting, but it's going to be generally a bit easier on the joints. So if you do have sprinting issues and you're willing to invest in a piece of equipment, I do highly recommend a sled or a Prowler or something like that. All right, so there we go. We're gonna leave it there, guys. I had a ton of fun with you today. I really did. We missed Dan, but see, we can have a good time, just the two of us. I appreciate you. If you like what you're seeing here, hit that like button, subscribe, help us out, help us grow the channel. Head over to Kettlebell Quickies. Got some new content coming there. Be sure to subscribe. Check out the already, I think, pretty cool content we have over at Kettlebell Quickies. I just released the program Flinimum for free. It's all free, guys, over there. And speaking of free things, head over to 101kettlebellworkouts.com, where you can snag yourself 101 free kettlebell complexes, combos, and chains that'll get you on my email list, which I think is a cool place to be. It's a little bit funny. We share a lot of cool stuff, and we have a big sale for Strong On coming up. If you're already a Strong On member, there'll be opportunities to upgrade your membership. We actually are offering a lifetime membership. You can become a member of Strong On for your entire life. We're going to have a big deal on that. I think it's super worth it, especially if you dig my style of training. And yeah, we're done. See ya.